Wonderful. I think we have everyone. And if other folks trickle in, we'll just welcome them gladly into our space today. Again, welcome everyone who has joined us today in this webinar that we have so beautifully and joyfully put together very quickly to honor the moment that we're in as a community. My name is Ashley Hare, and I'm the new Director of Leadership Development at the National Guild for Community Arts Education, and honored to support the Catalyzing Creative Aging program and the network and the members within it. This webinar is scheduled to last 60 minutes today, and due to the large number of folks on this call, you'll all be muted until you have moments to speak if you so choose. If you would like to share questions or share ideas or share resources while the panelists are speaking about ways they're dealing with the health crisis today, please add those into the chat box. If this is your first time on Zoom, if you go down to the bottom, if you're in full, you should see a word that says chat, and you can click on that and a chat box will open on the right-hand side, and you can add all your resources to that. You can also add your questions as they come to you. And so when the panelists are done, when we get to the Q&A, I'll be looking through those questions and making sure they get answered and filtering those through to the panelists. Also, lastly, if there's something that you want to share that you and your community is developing or creating to support in this time, also you can share that in the chat box and say, hey, I'd love to share something that we have done as well, and we can share that in the Q&A. So just let me know. That's it for me. I'm going to pass it to Eliza, who is going to be our beautiful lead today and help us through this conversation.
Hi, and welcome everybody. I'm Eliza Kaiser. I'm the director of Pullen Arts Center in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm the co-ambassador of the Creative Aging Network. The Creative Aging Network's mission is to support collective learning and best practices for arts education organizations that provide intentional arts learning for adults over 55. So in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, our network is glad to have you join us today in the forum to address your concerns, to offer mutual support, and most importantly, to create a space for information and advice sharing. Our focus today is on creative aging programs, teaching artists, funding, and partnerships. We know that what we know about COVID-19 and how it's impacting each of our communities changes daily. And so with today's forum, we hope not only to share examples of how other organizations are responding, but also to create a space for you all to share your ideas and what you've learned or tried in your community so far. We'll begin by hearing from our panel. First, we'll hear from Vita Litvak of Fleischer Art Memorial in Philadelphia, then Effie Chad from the Art League of Houston in Texas, and myself, Eliza Kaiser from Raleigh, North Carolina. We'll talk about adjustments that we've made to programs and learning environments. Then we'll hear from Sylvia Sherman from San Francisco Music Center and Community Music Center, and she'll talk about how she's working with her partners to respond. Then we'll hear from Maura O'Malley and Annie Montgomery from Lifetime Arts about strategies that they are using and what they're hearing and preparing for. And then finally, Teresa Bonner will wrap us up with tips for talking to your funders. And then the next piece, we'll devote the rest of our time to questions and share outs from the field, from you, that are organized around topics: creative aging programs, teaching artists, funding, and partnerships. So Vita, now if you will, kick off our panel with adjustments to programs and learning environments.
Thanks, Eliza. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm really happy to be here with everyone in this moment. These are hard times, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been doing at Fleischer. We have a creative aging program. It's 2 classes. They're both 12 weeks long, and we were pretty much right in the middle of the semester when all of this started to happen. And we took pretty much immediate precautionary measures and postponed the 2 classes for 2 weeks to start with. We notified all of our participants, And one of the things that we actually had to do to prepare, one of the classes is in clay. So students have been working in clay, and what you need to do to a sculpture that's in progress, that's in clay, is to keep it wet. So we were actually worried what would happen to the sculptures if they dry out. So the instructor and I came in and actually added more water and wrapped them up really well, sort of to make sure that the work itself wouldn't be ruined in this process. So we might have to do that again. We're really sort of closely monitoring the situation and looking at the Philadelphia School District, following the school district, the PMA. We're part of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, so we're also following their lead. We're looking at the CDC and really going to be making those decisions, but likely postponing a little bit further. We're also thinking a lot about how to add an online component of any kind. One of the classes is in drawing, so that might be a little bit easier. The other class is, like I said, in clay, so that's much more hands-on. But things like looking at other artists' works, doing little self-reflective writing assignments, coming up with ideas for projects and then sharing them. Again, sort of this notion that older adults are already struggling so much with isolation, that in these times, finding ways to combat that is really important. So one of the things that we're hoping to do is being able to stay in touch through email, Zoom chats, and staying in touch online. Yeah, so we're really keeping our ear to the ground and sort of trying very hard to stay on top of it and thinking through of our next steps. But that's so far what we've done at Fleischer.
Hi, everyone. My name's Epi Chad. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Art Lake Houston. We're a community art center that has both exhibition spaces as well as studio spaces where we host visual arts education for adults over the age of 17. And a large part of the population that takes classes with us on a regular basis is comprised of older adults. We also host healing art program there every Friday. That program specifically serves adults living with chronic illnesses and physical disabilities. And that program is also largely comprised of older adults. So pretty early on, we switched over to a sticker dot system as a way of sharing with our community that we were going to great lengths to sanitize the building on a regular basis. This was while we were still open to the public. The sticker dot system was essentially just circular stickers in different colors that were placed above or on top of high touch areas throughout the building, both to indicate to staff that those spaces needed to be cleaned on a daily basis and to indicate to the community that those were being acknowledged as high touch areas. The system just comprised of a color sticker for each day, and every evening the last person in the building would clean the entire building and switch the colors, and then every morning, just to be really safe, we would whoever got there first would go through and clean all of the areas and then replace with another sticker. That helped a little. I think that the response that we got from our community was that it made them feel a little bit more confident, of course, that the space was being cleaned. But at a certain point, we really had to kind of rethink things. And at this point, we've closed the building. Last Friday, we canceled one of our openings. We had 3 openings in 3 different galleries. Our main gallery had 2 older adults that were visiting artists, and had a large community in Houston of people that were going to come. So it was our first time facilitating an opening through Facebook Live. What we did was walked through with an iPad through each of the gallery spaces with each artist and let them do a personal tour. We had about as many people sign on to watch on Facebook Live as we would have had in the building, which was somewhere near about 225 people, which was really more than we expected because we made this decision fairly late in the week. So our next steps, now that we are closed, we're offering all of our classes that can be converted to online classes through Zoom. We're working with each of our instructors and teaching artists to help them figure out exactly how curriculum can be adapted, and also how we can create messaging for the students so they understand that they might not be getting the exact same content in the classes they signed on for, but that they will be getting high quality content in their programming. Our first trial will be with Healing Art this Friday, because some of the participants in that program are not necessarily comfortable with Zoom or not comfortable with using technology. We're hoping to launch a Facebook Live session where we can walk everyone through the process of using Zoom and then hopefully be able to onboard people that way. Fingers crossed that this goes well, and we'll let you know how it works out.
Okay, so I'm back. I'm Eliza, and I apologize for, I understand my sound's pretty bad. So feel free to let me know, National Guild, if you need me to stop talking at some point in time. I, again, am located in Raleigh, North Carolina at Pullen Arts Center. And at the time that COVID-19 really surfaced, our main creative aging programs were painting and drawing based. So even as recently as last week, whenever we began planning this webinar, we were really stressing social distancing. So we were really focused on things like making sure that we were communicating with our students about what our cleaning schedule was. We were making sure that we implemented extra cleaning of things that were high touch, like table surfaces, like easels. We were minimizing the amount of shared equipment. So for example, in the past, maybe we would have had a stash of paintbrushes that would be shared by the group, but we decided to minimize that and have students bring in their own paintbrushes. But at this point, we have also gotten to the point where we have decided to cancel all of our programs effective today. So we're not sure where to go next, but we will be looking at online options as well. I think here, really thinking about the social connection that our students get from our programs and how important that is to them, especially in stressful times like this, is probably what's most concerning to me. And so as much as possible, I've been trying to personally call all of our students just to check in and let them know what's going on with our programs, and just to make sure that they know that we're here and we're available by phone, even if we're not available otherwise. I think the other thing that I'm not sure other folks have talked about is making sure that our refund policies were as flexible as possible. So really trying to make sure that we were empowering folks to take the best care of themselves possible, to make the right decisions for their situations, and not to worry about whether or not they'd get their money back and have that be the cause for them making a bad personal decision. So that's where we're at right now in Raleigh, North Carolina. So now I'll turn it over, I believe, to Lifetime Art. Or no, I'm sorry, to Sylvia Sherman at San Francisco Community Music Center.
Let's see. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Elisa. Nice to see you all. These are some strange and unsettling times. But what I found, we are probably, along with New York City, at the far end of the trajectory. We just went into a 3-week shelter in place early this morning. So, you know, we've kind of gone through the periods of time that you all are starting to see now. So what I hope to do is just sort of share a little bit about that whole trajectory, but I'm going to jump in and start with where we are today, just because you may find yourself there. Um, we thought we were, going radical when we canceled our big performathon event early last week. We thought that was, very sad. And then 2 days later, the school districts closed, and so we closed. And over the weekend, we got 120 faculty up into remote learning. So that's where we are today. Everyone is teaching out of, I would say 90% of our faculty are embracing remote learning, and that can mean anything from FaceTime to pushing videos out to doing Google Hangout to Skype, or a simple phone call to those who don't have other kinds of technology. So we have a whole system in place. I'd be happy to talk with others about what we're doing and our payment and credit policies, but it's been quite a thing. And I would say in terms of creating community, it's actually created a really kind of intense, beautiful community amongst our faculty, that there's little cohorts. We have different departments, and they are sharing with each other and learning and realizing that the students really appreciate the contact. Most students are embracing remote learning at this point. We're only at Tuesday, so it's hard to tell. It's hard to get in touch with people. It takes a lot of effort. We are doing the old-fashioned make a phone call to every person method, and breaking it down to have our faculty start the process, and then we're following up with staff time. But we were in shape to do this because we had the preview from our older adult choir program. Back in the first week of March, we had 15 choirs throughout the city in different kinds of sites, but the work at a rehabilitation hospital was like the canary in the coal mine, because they shut down and didn't have any visitors come in. So that was the first choir to cancel. Then our Department of Aging and Adult Services did a guidance request that partners stop non-essential activities, which would be like exercise and arts programs, last week. And our partners had mixed responses, and we decided to follow what our partners were deciding, since the choirs are at their sites. And we had a mix, but we started to create videos. We tested Zoom, we tested Google Hangout, and as you all have probably learned, there's really no good interactive musical experience you can have remotely, or we haven't found it yet. I'd love to hear if someone else found it. But we did find that we could create videos with warm-ups and songs that would be meaningful for choirs. So we have started that process. Each of our choir directors has really created a personalized experience for their choir. They say hello, they have a little chat with them. And what we've learned is important technologically is to do things in small bites, less than 5 minutes, so they can be uploaded to Dropbox. In our system, we upload to Dropbox. Our staff team helps them convert it into YouTube link, which other people may just be able to do it themselves, create a YouTube link, but it goes on the Community Music Center channel. And then the choir directors send out the links to all the choir members. We know that not all of our choir members have access to internet. In the beginning, we were asking people to buddy up into small groups so that people who didn't have access could see it. We also recommended that people who have relatives who have access, that they give us those email addresses so they could be shared. Now that we're in a stay in place thing, it's hard to know. But what we have seen is people responding with great enthusiasm. I can read you one quote just to give you a sense of it. It says, one person responded, "You guys are amazing. I love the video and have bookmarked it and will sing along with you every day. Take care of that special family of yours, and thank you for your spirit and goodwill. It means a lot." So people really do feel connected through these virtual experiences, and it's been really helpful for the older adult choirs. I will say in the very beginning, we talked to our major contractor, the Department of Aging and Adult Services, and asked them if they would consider this as a modified activity to do choirs and share them with them, the choir members, and they were extremely happy that we had innovated something new to allow people to still be engaged, and they have decided to fund those. So we were able to pay our faculty, we were able to bill for the contract, and we're in the process of trying to figure that out with each of our partners who will also do that in other kinds of settings. I think, others have talked about all the various stages of, safety protocols. We're now kind of beyond that with the closures, but all of those are great things to do in earlier phases. I think that's it. I shared earlier in the chat, it might have been too earlier for other participants, but we do have a playlist of the choir videos. You're certainly welcome to check that out. And if someone's interested, we also have developed like a protocol to make it easy for our choir directors, some of who are not at all tech savvy, about how to create a video, and they've all been able to do it. I think that's it for me.
Great. I think it's me and Maura. Maura, are you on?
Yep, I'm on.
Okay.
Yep. Hi, everybody. We're close to where San Francisco is now, I think, in terms of the, the reduced outside life. But we've also, as of last week, canceled all of our live trainings. We had a series of trainings scheduled with New York State Council on the Arts and New York State Office of the Aging in 3 different regions in New York. And we canceled the training because it was directed, we canceled the training for safety reasons, but also it was directed at senior center personnel and public library personnel, all of which have now been closed. So we are also working at Lifetime Arts to roll out our training online. We've always done this, but this now gives us kind of an opportunity to really dive in deep and look at how we're going to deliver this training and access in maybe more extended time periods. It actually is kind of helping us to kind of really refocus our energies. Sylvia, one of the things I was just thinking is that I think it's really important that all of us share our work, because a lot of people think automatically that older adults are not going to get online. They're not going to have access. But I think that showing that in fact this stuff is working is really important, so that people at least try, because it's really easy to give up. Everyone is struggling through this personally and professionally. And I think it's real easy to say, well, someone else will take care of this later on, or this will pass. But I think it's sort of energizing to hear that people are getting online, people are responsive, and there's an enormous amount of work that we can do to keep us connected and to keep rolling things out. So I think one of the things that we're dealing with also is changing it. We've changed our website to be sort of a repository, our homepage. We've sort of cleared it of other information so that it's more directly linked to what we're all dealing with right now with resources. We're continually every day. There are great resources out there, and we're compiling them and making them available online, and then using our communications team to actually disseminate this information through email blasts and any other ways that we can think of. The other thing is that we are also working with our institutional partners, keeping in touch. One of the questions is, how do we fulfill our contractual obligations without knowing what's going to happen? People are talking that this kind of situation may last for many months. So, and being in the business of combating social isolation is so hard right now because we're all practicing social distancing. So we're giving, we're in a particularly vulnerable space, I think. But I think we have to keep working as if this will resolve. We will be able to deliver our services. And I would encourage people to sort of not guess at what other people are thinking. Actually call up your colleagues and your partners and have conversations about this, because it's helpful to everybody. And also I feel like everybody's being extraordinarily open and cooperative. So I think that it's, don't hesitate to call your colleagues, your funders, your partners, and have the conversation and get the information out there. Annie, I don't know what you want to.
Yeah, no, I think you're summing a lot up of some of the our efforts that we've done since literally Thursday, Wednesday, like the rest of us, and
Yeah.
how quickly everything's changing. But one of the things I want to keep talking about, and Sylvia, your comments about reimagining sort of contracting with your partners, awesome, incredible news, and also your instincts, all of you, around what you can do virtually in terms of web learning or online learning, even if it's not Zoom. You know, sometimes it is just through Skyping or more one-on-one sort of efforts. You know, right now we're really, with a lot of our partners and our teachers, are really scaling back to a certain extent with the students and encouraging, go back to one-on-one, go back to drop-in if you have to, go back to whatever it is to keep them connected to you in any way, shape, or form possible. So I love hearing all those ideas. But additionally, one of the things that Lifetime Arts is really thinking about is our teaching artists, and how our gig economy really has been so beautiful for them over the last 15, 20 years. And now I can't tell you, and you probably know, how our teaching artist community is really suffering. So as you start thinking about reimagining this online learning content, and I know that all of your teaching artists are not employees and are just 1099 contractors, are there ways you can realign your own budgets or think about bringing them on into your online content? Or maybe it's just calling all the participants, doing the check-ins, whatever it is, whatever was within your capacity to engage the teaching artist in this effort. I think in the long run will also help with your retention with your students, because at the end of the day, those students are connected to your organization, but they are most connected to your teaching artist. And that's who they're in love with the most. And that's the day-to-day. They're the ones who know the students best. So in any way you can, I would keep encouraging you to look really creatively and out of the box in ways that you can engage your teaching artist. I think that's it for me for now. Who's next?
I just want to say one more thing
Sure.
that has come up, is that, you know, in our efforts to not only keep our teaching artists engaged, employed, possible to whatever extent, we all may come to a point where we have to rethink our organizations in general, and where we can or might have to reduce staff time or take pay cuts or things like that. And just organizationally, that is something that we need to put in the hopper. We need to begin to plot out what happens if you can't keep somebody full-time. Can you keep them on long enough to keep them, you know, to provide health insurance? Can you keep them long enough to make sure that their childcare is not screwed up? You know, what can we do? And those are all realistic situations that we all might find ourselves in. So it's not just our service delivery, and but it is also our own organizational structures, and how we're going to survive and keep each other safe for as long as possible. And we don't want to lay people off. But maybe we have to, or maybe we reduce time, whatever it takes to keep the big picture, to keep the work going forward. So I just wanted to put that out there, that it is a bigger issue. It's a complicated issue. It's like Debbie Downer, God.
Teresa, I think you've been muted.
Let's try this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. That's my biggest funder message for today, as the kind of primary national funder in the creative aging work. We're so grateful that all of you are doing what you're doing. We empathize so wholly with what you are facing and working with your populations. The bottom line from Aroha about what what our approach is, I'll just start there, is the last thing we want to do is add to anyone's stress right now. So we've gotten lots of calls from grantees who say, you know, we might have to cancel, or we do have to cancel, or what if this? And our response is, you know, nothing's more important than the health and safety of you all and the communities you're serving. Our world's not going to come to an end if grant deadlines aren't met, or if reports don't come in, or if any of these things kind of come to pass. Let us know how we can help. I think that for us, what was informative was hearing from some of the grantees to say, who called to say, or emailed, actually, don't call, but email, to say, we're really worried, we might have to do this, we might have to do that, how will that affect our funding? And I think, you know, taking those kinds of proactive, brief communications with your funders to say, we just want to make sure this is not a problem, we'll keep you posted. I've always felt that when you're in a tough situation, in your work life, probably like your personal life, always signaling your turns to the people that you are beholden to or who you need is one of the most important things, even when the message is, I don't have the answer yet, but I want you to know I'm thinking about this, or I'm concerned about this, or I'm working on this. And I think that kind of relationship with funders actually yields fruit in the long run, especially if you're not just asking for something at that moment in time. At least I can speak to how I respond to those kinds of inquiries. I do see a growing awareness of funders of the arts, and you probably do too. You know, to Maura's point, this is really an existential crisis for arts organizations, and we have to just know that. I think anyone who cares about the arts knows what, you know, X number of months with no ticket revenue will do, or X number of months with no registration tuition revenue would do. And so, Maura, thank you for bringing up those difficult topics. You know, like family in the restaurant business. Believe me, same scenarios. How do will I still get paid? How do I get unemployment? Do I this? Do I that? And everyone in our circles is facing one or another of those questions. So keeping that on top of mind is so great. But especially Sylvia and those of you who are figuring out how to make online connectivity happen with your as many of your community as you can. I just really want to applaud that and say once again, the arts are out there being creative, collaborating, working together. This may sound like platitudes right now, but honestly, I just think it's so important because it's so easy to get into our own bubble of fear or discouragement. And so we are one another's strengths. And we do get a chance to recognize the importance beauty and joy can still play via the arts. I wrote a little thing that's going out on our newsletter today, and just recognizing that older adults who are continuing to share their creative work online. And Italians are singing off their balconies, and the Met Opera is doing free live home streaming of their favorite operas. And we're just really grateful for everything that everyone can do to help alleviate someone else's difficulties or share a little joy right now. It's just really, really tough. And I say that because all of a sudden my denial bubble was pierced on Saturday. It was Saturday? I can't even tell you anymore what day it is, but with the Bay Area announcements of sheltering in place and going, wait a minute, they said 65 and older, don't leave the house. Oh crap, I'm 65. And I think I say that only because with everyone, up to a certain point, you think this is a thing about somebody else. It's, you know, whether you're, as the man in orange calls it, the Chinese virus, but this is not somebody else's problem anymore. This is our problem. So I'm realizing I'm being a little overly abstract, but just those are the thoughts I have to share. I knew this is an informal forum, and so I could just talk to you, so that's what I'm doing. But thank you, Lifetime Arts, for bringing these resources together, making it clear and findable on your site, and to all of you who are offering programming to older adults. Thank you for what you're doing. Is that helpful?
Extremely helpful, and I think we're all feeling the same way. It's
Yeah.
very, very hard. I think this is very, very, very hard. Yeah. So yeah. You're muted.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
our kind of ferocity in really trying to make a quick transition to remote learning is because we realized that this is, at first we thought it was going to be a 2 to 3 week closure along with the school district, but we figured it would be longer. I mean, if we look at Italy, and the more that we can get our faculty trained and comfortable and our students, I mean, we're in the last 2 weeks of our quarter, and we thought what better time to have people try it, experience it, realize that it can work, so that if this is a more long-term thing, that becomes our business model to keep our faculty employed and to retain our students. Because otherwise, we will be looking at a much more existential situation. Um, it's unrealistic to expect that it will be 100%. And, someone in finance is figuring out what percent we need to, be able to maintain ourselves as we currently are. But really pushing now for immediate contact with every single person, both faculty and student, is key to the process. I mean, we have one of our student interns is 9 to 5, just training our older faculty on how, whether it's FaceTime or whatever it is, phone call. It's very one-on-one, and it's amazingly working. People who never thought they would be able to do it are doing it on both sides, students and teachers.
Thank you, Sylvia, for sharing that. And thank you all for sharing sort of how you're coping and dealing and maneuvering in this challenging time. I know we have a small group actually on the webinar, which is great. And we have some resources that have been coming in on the chat box during your conversations. We did want to open it up if people had questions that they would like answered. I don't see any questions in the chat box, but because I think we're so small, if folks would like to share, I also want to give this an opportunity if folks were on the Teaching Artists Guild webinar last Friday, if they wanted to share some takeaways for some of us that couldn't join that webinar, that would also be, I think, really helpful for all of us here. And one other thing I want to add in this Q&A moment is the Guild, we're really trying to find ways to support you all as funders and service providers in staying connected to each other and sharing these ideas and ways that you're dealing with this. And one way that we have started thinking about how we could help you all in support is creating a Facebook group page for those who are on Facebook. And so Lisette can put the link into the chat box and you can join, invite others. And that way, if you're on Facebook, you can put resources into there and talk to each other and stay connected. If there's other ways for some of us that are not on Facebook that may want to stay connected to each other, I offer this time as well for you to share other ways that you might want to stay connected in some sort of group chat form or exchange in some way as well. So we'll start with questions, or we can start with resources too. Any burning questions?
This is Heather from the Guild also. It's great to see so many of you here. One thing that Sylvia said that just struck me was that sort of high touch follow-up with individuals. And I think what's resonating with me even on this call or other calls like this or Zooms that I've been on over the past several days is, in sort of talking with so many of you and some of our previous cohort members with our own Catalyzing Creative Aging programming, they're sort of figuring out the instruction piece online. And then there's actually just the social connection that people are yearning for already in your programs. So the folks that were coming before a class started and staying later just to talk to each other. And I guess as you were talking, Sylvia, it just struck me that just finding spaces, obviously for us who are delivering this kind of work is important, but even more so for those that you all are serving in the community. If they are, if we can get, help them get comfortable for platforms like this, it seems that as this continues, just this social space, even if it's the teaching artist facilitating a conversation of how are you feeling, or seem also just so relevant. And then when we do get to that point of business as usual, the new usual again, those bonds will hopefully continue and strengthen into the work. So to me, as I'm listening, there's just that piece around beyond all the instruction, just continuing that engagement with those that we've been serving.
Hi, Tanya.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi.
This is really great. Thank you so much for creating this space. It's really, really important. And so much of this is really resonating. I just wanted to share two quick things. I'm from New England Conservatory. We're trying to reimagine our School of Continuing Education in a number of ways. And one of the pieces we've been grappling with the most has been around ensembles and group learning situations. A number of you have spoken to this. And I would just throw out there, we've come up with some really cool stuff that I think people are getting excited about. For example, we have some of our jazz groups that are going to collectively listen to recordings of the pieces they're working on, and do sort of oral analysis. Some of our chamber ensembles, rather than meeting obviously as a chamber ensemble, they're all getting together through Zoom and doing score analysis or playing individual parts so that other people can hear their parts. It's definitely been actually a great exercise in really giving more empowering the faculty to be, and our teaching artist staff to be able to jump in and see how can we make this work. So far it's been a surprisingly, there's been a lot of optimism around creativity. So that's one thing I want to share. Also, we've been getting a number of calls of people who are wanting to join, wanting lessons on an instrument that they never had time to study before. And I'd be curious if that is coming up for other people. So, it sort of caught us by surprise, but then we were like, of course, this could be a whole new market of people that we aren't normally reaching because we have this opportunity. So that would be like a curiosity question, how other people are responding. Those are my two.
I just want to share that one of the things that this has made me think about, I do think I'm seeing a lot of personally Facebook, because I'm a teaching artist, and a lot of my teaching artist musician friends are offering their services online now, and with a lot of success because of the time thing. So I think that's a fantastic idea. But all of this is one of the things we always get asked about, and have an example here or there, little spatters of examples of online creative aging classes, which has been very few and far between. And it's really forced our hand, this situation, to really look at this in a real way, particularly because one of the ways that, one of the things we talk about with creative aging learning and lifelong learning and sequential programming is about independent, active older adults and learning the skills. However, our capacity in our brains to learn, if you're not active, you may be at home and still be able to learn sequentially. And so where are the resources for people, and why aren't there more of them? And so one positive thing comes out of this is it really is making us reimagine our delivery. Not that I don't want programming to go back and live at some point in time, and it will, but to have both options really readily available for people, and to know that it's not able-bodied people that can learn, it's everybody that can learn. And so just, in some ways, I'm grateful for that aspect.
Hi, this is Deborah. I'm at the, I know I have a naked bird on my shoulder. I apologize. She screams if I don't pick her up. So these are some of the hazards of working at home. There's nothing wrong with her. She's not sick. She just pulls her feathers out. Her name's Mabel. But that's not why I'm unmuted, but hello to everybody from Mabel. So we've decided to continue our Stage Stories courses, even though they're technically over. We pulled the plug on everything last Wednesday, and their shows are this week. So they're heartbroken, and so am I. And it's been really hard. I've kept in touch with them by email every day. And everybody, at first we were going to meet, we were not allowed to meet at the theater, so we were going to meet at a restaurant. Now the restaurant's closed, and they're all older, so everybody's not allowed to go out anyway. So, you know, yesterday I went, okay, we're going to jump into online. And so I'm figuring out ways to do things a little differently and send them assignments. One second. Sorry. Working at home problems. We're going to send them things beforehand. And one of the things I think that's really important is they just want to see each other. They just feel really lonely. I've had a lot of people offering, those people that aren't over 65, offering to go get groceries for other people because they're not allowed to leave. And there's just been I think the community has even gotten stronger. And one of the things I think we're going to do, which we don't really do that often, is just read some beautiful literature out loud to each other and be in a space together. Because I think that, I mean, everyone sort of touched on this, it's just that loneliness. I'm sure in another week, my husband and I and all these animals are going to be ready to be talking to other people as well. I mean, it's just like we're in a different space that we've never been before. So I haven't done it yet, and I'm a little nervous about, some of them are really scared about being online. So those of you, a couple of people mentioned things on how to do a tutorial for Zoom. And so I'm hoping I can figure out a good way to do that. And if anyone has any other ideas, I would love to hear those, because I think they all have the equipment. I just think they're afraid. And if they push something and it doesn't work, then they're like, I can't do it.
Deborah, what
you.
theater are you with?
And I'll try and keep her quiet. I'm at the Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts in Beverly Hills. And we're closed, and we heard yesterday that we're probably closed to the end of May, which is terrifying.
It is.
So I can't even go there. I can't even go how scared I am about losing my job. So.
I know, everybody's in that boat right now, big time. If anyone isn't, they're good at denial.
I don't know where they are, yeah.
But you really raise some really good points about just the need to connect and see other people's faces and share arts forms. I really like the things you're saying, and I think that's where we can make a difference. And the Guild, I could easily imagine, is there a way that you all could create a series of sort of like tech assistance for the non-tech inclined, if you want to create an online learning or even online communication platform with your students in this art form. So one might be around visual arts, and one might be around singing, and one might be around something else, and that those themselves are short shareable, maybe like there are in any one, maybe there are four or five 4-minute videos, but where you really could train someone who just goes, you know, I've managed to avoid learning how to use Zoom or FaceTime all this time. I mean, I think starting there and just getting the word out for teaching artists that this is out there, because many have used it, but many have not. So I might suggest that's something you all consider. And of course, any organization can do it on their own. Lifetime Arts can do it for the teaching artist field in general. But the Guild for your members, that could be a huge value add, I think. Sylvia, you know, you've now gone through and developed a protocol to do that for individual, you call them older teachers, but, you know, whoever. I really think there's some value here to think about doing something like this.
I love it. And I'm glad that we're all on the same page. Heather and I and Lisette and Ivy just had a program team meeting yesterday, Monday morning, to say, what would it look like to have quick how-to videos for Zoom, for Google Hangout. A lot of people will probably use Google Hangouts because it's, hey, Ivy. A lot of folks will probably use Google Hangouts because it is free. You can use Zoom, but oftentimes it's very limited, like one-on-one and only for 45 minutes for a free account. But there is Google Hangouts. There's other ways of sharing, like Slack and Airtable, other things that we can do a quick tutorial on and share folks. What's great about Zoom is we can screen share, so we can show you how to use something like an app and whatnot. So we had that conversation yesterday. So great minds are all thinking alike, Teresa, to think about how can we share how to use Zoom, you know, so that way you all can take that little video and share it with others, or just have your teachers log in with us and we just have a question and answer moment too, you know?
Mm-hmm. I wanted to piggyback on with a thought or idea. Is my sound any better? Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, actually.
All right. So as I'm listening to all of this, you know, what's definitely been in my mind is the fact that we're in an important piece of history right now. And so are all of our participants, so are all of our students. And wouldn't it be amazing if we could, you know, take advantage of these online resources that everybody's trying to pull together and encourage our participants and our teaching artists to produce a body of work about the experience they're going through, and really support them and contribute to history while it's in the making. So just throwing it out there.
Any final thoughts or questions or challenges? Sylvia, I see you unmuting yourself. Do you have something?
I did for a second, but only to say, Eliza, I love that. And one of our songwriting teachers actually, just based on his own start and stop experience, learning how to work with Zoom with slow internet, created a COVID virus blues. But certainly I think all of us are developing things in our own world. And if it's helpful and, you know, the Guild wants to create a shared, you know, Google Doc or whatever for us to share our various training modules, we can continue to do that. So whatever makes sense, but it is a great idea.
One thing we've been hearing from some folks, and I suspect this might be the case for all of you too, is that there was an immediate response, a flurry of lists of resources, even in some cases curriculum, which started to feel overwhelming to folks. I'm sure I see a lot of nodding heads. And so one of the things we've begun to think about, and I know we would all welcome your further thoughts on this, and maybe you have teaching artists, is sort of how to package some of those resources in short videos that people can watch that are maybe a little bit more digestible. So, you know, Ivy shared an idea of maybe even hiring a few teaching artists who have real expertise in translating their artistic discipline to different online platforms, and doing it almost like at a macro level of like, here's some, not teaching the lesson, but sort of demonstrating how to do that, or even for staff and management, as we're now all trying to understand how to work as a team in this space together. And to all the points, I think we are really interested in, whenever we can, investing in teaching artists at this moment to be able to do that work. So just put it out there, keep the thoughts going, ideas flowing, and I think it's something we're really interested in thinking through with you all, and particularly for this group, you know, as that relates to translating those disciplines for older adults.
You know, I had something come up just, you know, it was like something I wanted to answer for a teaching artist friend of mine who was trying to continue his clown course for a bunch of elders out in Coney Island. And, you know, they ran into this real specific problem, which was everybody had an Android phone. One person had an Apple phone. How were they couldn't do FaceTime. They couldn't do, you know, and so he was just trying to figure out an app that worked for everybody. Well, the person with you know, the Apple didn't know how to download an app, you know, so it just made me think, like, what is also, I think it's wonderful to get people onto these more complicated systems. And the truth is some people cannot. And I think especially lower income seniors, I feel like, though I don't know the statistics, sorry, this is Julie from Lifetime Arts. Should have said that. I feel like often older adults might have phones, actually, like smartphones, before they might even have a laptop computer in this day and age. Like, I think people's families purchase them phones. So I was just thinking about that too, as a format. And I didn't know if folks, you know, a lot of you are already developing content, and I don't know if you, I also heard like Facebook might be more accessible on somebody's phone than some of these other things. So I don't know, just in terms of the nitty gritty, other ways to make sure stuff is accessible. And if those who are already creating and already, like Sylvia and Deborah, you're already working with your seniors, what does seem to work easiest for them? And I also think, you know, the good old conference call, you know, and making sure as we're developing new programs, there's also one that somebody can just pick up their landline, because that might be the best accessibility that they have. So it's just really top of mind for me. If anybody has any comments.
We here, I work remotely, by the way, in Phoenix, Arizona, and we've been working a lot with our older adults who go to the senior centers that are owned by the city, which are now closed. There's 7 of them, and in the city of Phoenix. And one thing that we've been trying to find is an app, Julie, to your point, that they can either be on Wi-Fi if they don't have self-service. Some of them don't even have cell service. So what can you do this back and forth? And then that iPhone and Android, because even when you send a video to one or the other, you've probably seen it, it's very crinkly. And so one thing that we have found also, because we're a border state, so we have a lot of elders who have family in Mexico, so we have to figure out what that looks like. And one thing that we personally found was, it's an app called WhatsApp. It looks like What's Up, but it's WhatsApp.
Right.
And what's really great about WhatsApp is that they can video each other. They can get on Wi-Fi if they don't have cell service. They can call their family in Culiacan or wherever. But also what I really enjoy about it is if their physical ability isn't as much as if they could type, you could hold, it's similar to an iPhone, but you can hold the microphone down and send a voice text to the group. So even if you're in a group text on WhatsApp and you can't type or don't want to type, you can send a voice text in response. So it's been really helpful in using that, because it sort of has been functioning for wherever myriad of people are coming from. And so that's one that we found so far.
I think that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, voice text there's lots of voice texting, which is great to hear each other's voices too. And now I'm an Android user as of like 2 months ago. So, you know, everybody's mad at me because you just voice text anymore on the Google phone, like I could on the iPhone, but.
Right.
So we have 2 minutes left. Thank you so much for all of you in your resources that you're sharing today. The Guild doesn't take this lightly in the ways that you're needing support and wanting support and staying together. And so we've definitely been thinking about ways to help you. And if you have anything else that comes up, definitely let us know. We'll take all of the resources that we have in our chat box and truncate them into an email feedback to you after this webinar. And then those who couldn't join us but are probably watching this recording days from now in the future can also reach out to the Guild and let us know. And then of course, again, the Guild is looking at Google Hangouts and Zooms and how-tos and tutorials to really support you in your work. Lastly, I put the Guild Facebook group for creative aging onto here. I acknowledge that some folks may not be on Facebook or are now anti-Facebook, which is also a total thing. And so if there's other alternatives that we can support to keep you all connected, let us know. But with that, it is 2 o'clock and I'm going to honor our time. Thank you so much for our panelists and our attendees who shared with us today. And please, please, please email us if you have any questions, or email each other once you get each other's email, and stay in touch. Ivy, you have one more thing?
Yeah, I'm wondering, because this is so good, do we want to continue to do this maybe like on a weekly basis? I see head nodding and smiles. Okay, we can set up like a standing meeting, and you can pop in for an hour just to connect and swap resources, and then we can keep that Facebook group going too. and whatever other platform that you might like more than Facebook. Everything's golden.
Thank you, Ivy. I'm seeing a lot of recommendations for bi-weekly, so we can start there too. All right, thank you.
So fast. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ivy.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Bye.
much.